Hey guys, let's just continue from our earlier session of materials. This is materials part 2 in Rhino. So we were over here, and as you can see in this file, you can see the materials been applied. We have this concrete here and the wood here, and we're supposed to apply something else here, and we've already applied glass. What we are going to do next is, if you look at this texture, really this concrete, it's really big. So we need to scale this down, and we need to scale this down as well, and maybe we have to apply some more materials like grass and other things, maybe metal. We haven't looked at metal as yet, so let's just learn how to make metal even. So we'll go to amp tab. We have grass already here, but I think we haven't applied any map, so we go to the map, go to text bitmap. We choose any one of the grass material here, see the preview, come out of this. I did not say okay. Say okay, don't change anything else. Come out. I guess we've already applied the wood to our material, and we have a plane here which was a very infinite plane. So I've given you a little bit of explanation on this, that it appears to be small at the outside, but when you render the whole thing, this plane will extend out up to the horizon. So we can go ahead. I don't know if we have put it under any layer, but we could create one layer here, and we could call this as infinite plane, and just hold on to this and right click, change object layer. So it's changed, and we go to our materials tab and we apply a glass material, and there we have it. Okay, so what we can do now is, since I want to demonstrate how to make metal, we could take one of these panes, or maybe one or two of these panes, and we could change the frame to metal. So let's go to M again, and we'll create a, instead of creating a new material altogether, because part of metal property, which is reflection, is already, we have already done it. So we could actually duplicate this. So we could just come in here and just say duplicate material, rename this as metal, and what we need to get rid of this is reflection. We don't require any reflection here, and we require some bit of reflection and diffuse. So we come to diffuse and we'll give some color. So let's say we have something like dark gray or something, maybe slightly lighter than this, maybe this much. Say okay. I think I've changed the reflection color, excuse me. So we should never change this, should always give it to the default, and there's a Fresnel overriding it, so we're supposed to change it over here. I think we're good to go. We'll go with this color. Let's not change much, and you don't have to apply a map here. Only we need to set the transparency back to black, because metal is a completely opaque surface, and we need to change a bit in reflection. So reflection, already a map is applied, and it's a Fresnel map. I have explained you a bit about this algorithm, how it works, and a bit about IOR, what is an IOR and stuff. So we need to change, in case of metal, we need to change it to as high as something like 20 or so. We need to change it in both these fields. And there's another setting here, perpendicular, which I'll come back in a short while. So I'll just show you the preview. If you see this one here, let's go back to glass, and just if you see a preview here, see in the glass, if you really look at it very carefully, there's hardly any reflection happening at a place which is perpendicular to your eyes. See, there's no reflection absolutely there, whereas you see a lot of reflection happening toward the edges, right? In case of metal, that's not so. In case of metal, there's a lot of reflection even in the center here, which is not happening right now. There is a bit of reflection happening on the sides. So we go to metal again, go to reflection. In order for you to really have that effect in the center of this, like metal really has reflection all over, we need to do some changes in the settings. So we go to metal, we go to reflection, and under map, this is a setting that controls that particular reflection in the center of the object. So if it's completely white, there's no reflection absolutely, and if it's changed to black, then there's a lot of reflection. So we'll leave it to black here, and we have changed this to 20. We just say okay. Let's just see how our metal looks. Doesn't have much of a reflection really, so something is going wrong. Let's come back to reflection, and we've applied a map already. Okay, and diffuse, transparency. Okay, reflection, it's not really reflecting it enough. So let's see what's going wrong. It should have looked like chrome really, because we've changed the reflection as high as 20, so it should have really looked like a chrome or something. Give me a second. Let's just change this back to white and just see what happens. Okay, here if it is set to white, then it reflects, it looks like a chrome really. So let's leave it to white for the timing, and in case of metal it isn't really this reflective, so it's going to have some sort of a glossiness. Now what is glossiness? If you look at this, it's completely reflective here, 100% reflective. If I put this down to as low as say 0.5 or something, now what happens to the reflection? Just have a careful look at this. Look at this. So all the reflections are actually kind of they are smoothened out, they diffuse in a way. So, and metal really has this type of textures. So let's go with this, and what I was trying to explain you here was the reflection in the center of it. So it's not quite happening. Let me just change it back over here. Let's change it to black or something again, and let's just see if it works. No, it doesn't work, I guess. But yes, it hasn't changed really, so let's change it to black again. See, okay, and just preview it again. No. So okay, we'll leave it to that. We won't change this to white. For the timing, we'll just leave it to white. Come out of this. So we have a metal material here. Okay, we'll create one more metal material, so we can just duplicate this. Duplicate the material. We rename this as say metal screen or something. Now what I want to show you in this particular material is, if we could control, if you come back to here, what I want to do here is I want to create like a metal screen. So the metal screen would have a lot of pores into it, and from the pores you should be able to see the inside, whereas it would be a lot opaque as well. So it's a combination of opaqueness and transparency. So how do we do it? For example, what I'm trying to tell you is, let's go to a desktop folder where we have all the V-Ray textures. So I've given you this folder already. If I go to 1, and if I show you this, how it looks like, it's going to be like this. So what this one is really going to do is, this is almost like a map which says all the blacks are going to be opaque and all the whites are going to be like transparent. So through all the whites you're going to see what is beyond the glass, and the blacks are going to be opaque. Okay, going back to here, let's go to M again, and we'll go to the diffused, and we need to change it in the diffuse section. It's not a map. It's not a map that overrides this color or something. So the color would still remain same because it's still a metal, right? So what we need to do is we need to change the map in the transparency, because the transparency really decides what's going to be transparent and what's going to be opaque. So we go under this, and we again choose the same text bitmap, and over here I think it's okay, it's here. We select this, and we don't change anything else. Absolutely, we'll just go by that. The pores are really very small, so you can't quite see them. So hit preview. You can barely see it, but it's working really. So maybe what we can do is, when we apply it, we can increase the scale, and you should be able to see it clearly. So that's about it. So what we have done is we changed the map in the diffuse section, and we leave everything else edges. Come out of this, and then we need to apply it to this one, let's say. So first of all, let's make create a layer, separate layer for this one, and we would call this as, say, metal screen. And we would click on this individually, so this one and this one, right? And we would put it under metal screen. And we'll have to create one more layer for the frame, so say metal frame. Okay, one more layer, we'll call it as window, metal panel. You can put both of these under this. And we need to apply the material now. So frames, we haven't applied anything, so we go back here and we select the frames one by one. But I could select all of this, not a problem. So I think I've selected all of it. I'll put it under metal frame just to check. There's one remaining here. I really don't know what this one is. I think that's the metal frame. Yeah. So this one also needs to go in the metal screen. So if I put the metal frame off, I have these two here. Perfect. We need to now apply the materials. So we come to screen. We go to metal. Okay. Sorry, metal screen. Enter. Come to metal frame, and we select just the metal, which is a diffuse metal surface. Say okay, and right at the offset, you can see here, things happening. Through all the blacks, you could really see the transparency from the whites. Whites are opaque. So there you have it. But you can't see the materials properly because you've not done any renders as that. So okay, that's about it. And we need to fix now this materials because they're way bigger in size. So we need to scale it down quite a bit. So how do we do it? So that's our next section. So for that purpose, what I would do is I would open another file just to explain you the theory behind it. And then we would come back to this. So I've given you one file named as texture mapping, so I'll just go and open it. And I'll explain a couple of things here. So we have default materials applied here. We have some tile material applied here, and we have some concrete material applied here. So let's say you want to change the scale of this. I mean, this is too small or too big, and you need to change the scale of both of this. How do you do it? So we'll have to go to the material panel first, and then say the concrete is over here. Fine. And I guess these are all applied to this material. So now we need to go to the materials. So we go to concrete and we click. We select all of the concrete materials, and then under properties there's a tab called as texture mapping. We go under that. By default, what Rhino does is Rhino applies surface mapping to all of the materials. So surface mapping, what it really does is it applies the entire map all across the object, approximately. So but if you go with this default method, then you may get some weird effects. It won't apply rightly and stuff like that. So what we need to do is we have to go with the other options, really, depending upon the geometry of this. Now this geometry of this is like a cube, square, whatever. This one is spherical, this one is cylindrical. So we have specific kind of settings for that. We have planar mapping, we have box mapping, spherical, cylindrical. Now this is more of box mapping, so we have to apply box mapping. Now when we apply that, now what happens is we get some extra settings over here. The most important of the setting is this one, UVW repeat. So this really controls the sizing of this. So I'll just show you in a minute. If I change this to, let's say, 5 in the x, find the y, and find the z, then you can really see the effects taking place here. If I change this back to 1, so what difference do you see here? So what it says is, if it's 1, it will take the entire image and it will apply it right from here to here. Yeah, so the entire image size kind of fills in the size of the squares. But if I change it to 5 again, then it really repeats 5 times. You see here, it's repeating itself 5 times. It's not quite applying it in this size as well, but it should have applied. Anyways, you get the point. So basically it repeats 5 times here. There should be something that I need to do to have the effect on this surface as well, but you get the point. So if I just say lock even, then you don't have to, just have to change it in one place and all of it gets changed. So part of it is, I think, scaling. So let's come to the other section. We come to this one. So show mapping. So when I say show mapping, you need to kind of define a rectangle from point to point like this, and now the box that I drew just now will kind of assign the materials all along that box. So when I say box mapping, then it really asks me to define a box which I defined just now, and it will accordingly place materials on the sides of the boxes. Let me show it again to you. Let me just say hide show mapping again. So it's showing it up. Now what I could do is I could just take this box and I could just scale it. So I could just scale it and just see the effects on the box. So I shouldn't have scaled the box. I should have scaled the box mapping. So let me just do this again. Let me just delete this map again and apply box mapping. Come back here. And I guess the box is already here, so we'll just try scaling it. No, scaling the geometry. I shouldn't be scaling the geometry. I should be scaling the texture. So where is it? We haven't applied the box map. We need to apply it again. This time I'll just draw it a little bigger than the size of a box, just to illustrate what I'm doing. So this is a box that I've drawn, and I can come back to, it's already selected. So what I could do now is, one second, it's already showing the box. I think we need to say yes, enter yes, and then we have to say show mapping. So now you can get to see the box here. And now if I scale this box, just see what happens. Just look at the textures, what's happening to the textures. It's increasing as I scale this box. The textures on the box are increasing. So if we go to the front view, we just move it a little bit on the side. I will just scale this here. You see the difference. So point I'm trying to make is, depending upon the type of geometry, that you'll have to draw another geometry which will define the texture mapping on that original object. So because this is a square, I had to draw a square. I have to make sure that square actually fits onto the square geometry. Okay, if you really want to be precise and stuff. Fine. Now if I come back to this, if I want to, let's say, change the repeats here, If I do 5, 5 and 5, see what has happened. It has now applied it on all the sides. You could just lock this even and then just type in one field and it will apply it all over. Okay, coming back to the sphere, we have a sphere geometry here. So for this, again, Rhino applies the default surface mapping. We don't want this. We want to apply a spherical mapping here in this case. So we click on this and it will ask me to create a sphere. So I can go to the top view and I can create a sphere like this. I think it's exactly on the ball. Fine. I can say show mapping. It's not exactly on the box, so we need to move this a little bit. We can go to the front view or we could go to the top view. It's aligned, front view, right view. We just align it over here. So it's more or less aligned now. So again, you could change the UV repeats here. If I change this to 5, you see it gets much denser because it repeats itself as tiles. Fine, you get the point. You can even rotate it. So for example, you can hold on those boxes. The box is already selected. So if I want to say rotate, I could just rotate it approximately and it affects the map. Okay, you can control the rotation even here. If I change this to something like 45 degrees or 135, it would change it. I want to change it in the Y direction, you can change it, but you'll get some weird effects. So let's not fancy so much. Okay, so we have this similar to this. Let's come out of this and we'll say hide mapping. Let's come to this cylinder and the texture is already applied. Sometimes Rhino does a good job, it has applied it accurately and stuff, but sometimes it won't. So you should know the way around. So we want to apply cylindrical mapping for this. So we need to define a cylinder here in this case. So you can go to the top view and you can define the cylinder here and the height. Say enter. So it's already applied it. Sometimes you may get weird effects on the top, so in which case what you need to do is you need to just explode this surface. So you right click on this, select on this surface, it would be exploded, and then you could apply a planar mapping for the top portion and then maybe accordingly scale it up or down. So I guess you got the point over here. So fine, since we are into this file, I will show you something else. So I have these two images over here, and under one we have applied bump mapping for this. I've given a little bit of theory on bump mapping and displacement. So let's just see how it works differently in the renders. So if you go on the maps, this material is already created. Here you have grass bump and grass diffuse. So both the materials has a diffuse material, and in one you have the bump applied, fine, and you have the map applied also. So this is the map that we have. So if you go back to our folder and go under the textures, so if you just see here, this is the bump material. I think there's only one bump material. You could use the same bump material for both displacement and bump as well. So it's a black and white image. So essentially what we are talking about is black and whites to show what goes inside and what comes out. Just say okay. So in this instance we have the bump applied, in this instance we have the displacement applied, fine. And displacement really takes a long time, so I've done a pre-renders and I'll just show you the renders how it looks. So these are two. If you see in this, I'll get you closer to this. If you look at the difference between the two, in this case it's giving you a false kind of depth to the material. Things are going in and out. You can't quite see it that much, but it has, it's a false thing. So If it's a distant kind of a shot, it's okay, but if you want to really take a very detailed shot like this, you see here, so the bump is really, the displacement is really taking effect here. You're getting a bit of spikiness and stuff here. Actually it was a plain image, and because we applied a displacement map, which was the black and white map, it's giving you this kind of effect. So this is basically a displacement. It takes pretty long time to kind of render this. This is what I'm trying to tell you. See all this? Okay, so that's about bump and displacement. So I guess we can stop here to explain you about the texture mapping and bump and displacement, and we can go back to our original file. Which is here. Okay, so let's use the texture mapping that we learned now. So we go to, we select all of the walls. So select all of the walls, and then what do? We go to the properties layer and we go to box mapping. We can go to the top view and we can just define a nice large box around this. You can take the whole thing even. And then the height. Just say yes. Okay, then we go to show mapping and we have the box here. Let's just change the tiles. Let's just not do anything else. We need to move it back in position. So let's just change the tiles to say 5 and see the effects. Maybe 2. So the larger the number of tiles you will have. I think this seems pretty okay, so we can go with this and hit enter. Before that you want to hide this, so just have to hide the mapping and you apply the UV mapping here. Similarly, let's do it for the windows. We could select all of the window frames. So this is under frames. Okay, so we just go to frames, select all, and we need to change this to we need to go back to properties and we need to go to texture mapping, show mapping. Okay, we don't really have to do that. Let's just do it slightly differently. Select objects, go to properties. No, we don't get the controls here, so we need to go under texture mapping. What's going wrong? Hide mapping, and we'll just change this. We'll change the angle of this and just see what happens, because we have this horizontal lines here. Just change this to 90 and 90 and 90, and just leave this to this. Let's just see how it looks. I think it's taken care of this. So all the horizontal lines are gone because I've changed the angle, so it's pretty neat. And we have the metal surface and the metal screen here, so we are ready to go. We'll apply some material on the roof. Come to roofs, select objects and go to materials. So we don't have to do that. We have to first define our roof layer here. Call this as roof. Go to diffuse, apply a map, we'll apply this dark. I don't have a roof material here, so I'll apply a dark concrete material here. If you want, you can apply the bump even. It's the same material, so I could use one of these. So I would use, yeah, it's basically displacement of the same material. I could use this. Say okay, and I would change this to maybe something smaller. This is a preview. And we can apply it to the roof. So go to roof. This is already under roof, and we go to materials, roof. There we have it. Now if you want, you can change the scale of this. So let's assume we don't want any lines, so we go to the texture mapping button and we apply. Okay, we won't change any of this. And if we don't change, then we don't get the settings, so we need to change it. So we'll go to planar mapping, or we'll go to box mapping, sorry, and we'll just define a box. So we'll change this to, we don't want the lines, so what we can really do is change this to 0.5. So we won't get to see any creases. Get to see any creases here. So it's not locked. Just lock it again. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. It's locked, sorry. So we just change this to 0.5 here, 0.5, 0.5. Still you get the crease, but you can move this texture a little bit. So how to move it? Go to texture mapping, show mapping, and we can even scale it first. So you can just scale it even like this. I really don't want to see the creases here, so that should be nice. Okay, hide mapping, and I think this is perfect. So there is vertical lines, so it could be water dripping down and stuff like that. Okay, so we have the materials applied now. We save this work, and I think we are through with the materials. So we'll go to the next section where we'll try to render this whole thing out. And I think we need to change the render setting because everything was dark when we rendered this in the first place. So we need to go back and tweak the settings there. So I think this should be okay. Thank you.